There's a new plan to get rid of those long traffic snarls at the U.S.-Canadian border. You know, the ones that tie up tourists, they tie up truckers. Lindsay Duncombe is on the story live from Washington. So what's the plan, Lindsay?
Well, you know, Suhana, when you go to the airport in a major city right now, you go to U.S. Customs before you get on the plane and fly to the United States city. Well, what they want to do is make it so that same system exists not just in those airports, but at other border crossings, which would include land crossings, those lineups that you talked about, at the same time as rail crossings, marine crossings. The idea would be that each country could put their own customs scenario in front of the border so that you could pre-clear. And this is something that a lot of businesses like. In fact, it was interesting to note the amount of business groups that were here. The truckers were here, the tourism people were here. What they want to do is move goods and people across the border more efficiently. And that's something that's been talked about. This whole program was talked about years ago. And now really what they've done is they've figured out how exactly they want to do it. What will it mean to travelers? Well, if you're waiting in line to go shopping in Grand Forks, if you're based in Winnipeg, it could mean shorter lines. You probably pass customs before you cross the border. Exactly how it's worked out at each crossing still remains to be determined. And it also would have an impact, say, if you're in Vancouver and you want to go to a Seahawks game and you're on a bus with a bunch of people, instead of having to stop at the border and have to pull out your passports and go all of that, you can get all that done before you get on the bus and then drive all the way through to Seattle there. They have been talking about this for a long time. Certainly lots of people were celebrating, including the public safety minister. Here's what he had to say.
This was years in the making, of course, and an agreement of this magnitude presents a number of challenging hurdles for our two countries, but they were successfully overcome. These agreements respect the sovereignty and the laws of both countries.
And what's the timeline looking like, Lindsay? When is all of this supposed to happen?
Well, don't hold your horses, Suhana, because we've been talking about this already for years. Now the agreement is in place, but you can't just wave your magic wand. It has to actually become law, and that means in both countries, the legislation has to be introduced and it has to pass. And we spoke to the public safety minister. He figures that'll happen quite quickly. The real question mark here, though, is the United States. Legislation like this was brought at the last Congress. It didn't get anywhere, and we all know how quickly things move in Congress. Answer to that is not very quickly. So that legislative hurdle has to happen before any changes are made on any border.